Gordon Ramsay here, and Digitspin Crypto knows how to cook up a show. Sit back and enjoy. He's no idiot sandwich. Ha, goofy hat though. Cheers.
I can't tell you.
Hello, Dino.
He's a tech-savvy guy, gonna show you the way. You better load your bags, cause crypto's here to stay. Listen up, gonna teach you about this and that. But he's just a goofy guy in a straw hat. So join in and have a laugh. It's gonna be a good time, that's a fact. Information in crypto parodies. Sit back and enjoy the show. You just never know which way it'll go. So get ready for Digitspin Crypto.
Hey, it's Dino, Digitspin Crypto. Today we got a great guest, Mr. Mati Greenspan, the one and only, and his Tommy Hilfiger hat. And I see you're there you go. Now we can read. I didn't know much about your company. Are you doing mostly information, broadcast, newsletters? Obviously, there's got to be an additional function of the organization.
Yeah, so we run a wide range of financial services, which includes analysis, advisory, and money management. We've got a team of analysts from around the world, each one specializing in a specific market. Our primary service right now, as far as analysis is concerned, is content generation. So, like you said, newsletters, articles, blog posts. Our clients are typically going to be brokers, exchanges, crypto projects that want to get a little bit of attention or want us to do some research or writing for them. Of course, only the best of the best on our team. So you can see we're putting out a lot of free content on Medium and just stepping into video content at the moment with some really cool power players that have a lot of experience. So, lots to look forward to. Advisory services, as you know, I'm an advisor to Electroneum, which is one of the things that you mentioned you wanted to talk about today. And then money management. So right now I've got an account with eToro, which is where I used to work. I worked there for 7.5 years. And right now have 750 people copying me with a total of $600,000. So that's the money management for now, but we'll take it from there.
Yeah, I wish I could get back or put myself full time into crypto. Unfortunately, I got other companies I got to deal with, and I'm working.
I'm not full time crypto. That's not true.
That's not true, huh?
It's financial services, markets. Out of the analysts on our team, I would say 3 out of 5 have a very strong background in crypto, and then everybody's kind of familiar with it. But we have, people who came in, they've got good experience in other sectors of the market, and we have a very strong background in traditional finance. I myself am licensed by Cyprus regulators, so full accreditation. So we really have it's all finance, specifically fintech, and then an extra emphasis on blockchain and crypto.
Nice. So since you have all this wonderful information and background, what's your thoughts on DeFi? I get cranky with this yield farming, because to me it seems like it's just sucker farming, try to sell it off now. But there are some good DeFi products to get loans, and that I think are actually going to make things make a difference, make something happen, something that will be able to grow and turn into a real life product. What's your thoughts on all this stuff? And then obviously the big balloon that everybody's taking a beating on, or the guys that got in late.
I haven't tried it yet, Dino. I mean, I'm watching, obviously. I mean, there are people on my team who love it, and they spend a lot of time on it. Honestly, when somebody tells me, okay, I can give you 20% for lending them money, I take that with a very large truck full of salt. I mean, the going rate for lending money in the market right now, I mean, if you want to lend money to anybody
Mm-hmm.
or borrow money or whatever, I mean, interest rates are low right now. I mean, this is one thing that's been a big theme of the global economy for the last 10 years. Interest rates are low, they're on the floor. So borrowing money, lending money, and we're talking about in the range of 1 to 3%. So all of a sudden you want to tell me that you're able to get me 20%, which is like 10 times the market rate right now. I'm skeptical. And I want to understand very well before I put any kind of significant amount of capital on this, what the risks are that are involved. And so far, I haven't really understood the model. So, I mean, obviously, I have good teachers, and I'm talking to people who are insiders. And even today, I had a long conversation with somebody who was offering me the 20%, and they're not, a small operation. They've got a few clients already. It's still difficult for me. I mean, even even with all that, it's hard. And I'm very excited by this. And obviously, the rate, the pace of growth has been phenomenal. I mean, I'm watching DeFi Pulse like on a weekly basis. I'm checking the numbers over there. And it's exciting to see that kind of fast growth. And it's exciting to the prospect, right? And the idea that, we can take the finances back. That's what attracted me to Bitcoin, 7-8 years ago. So, that's something that's exciting, right? We can take control of our finances again and get a better deal because we're cutting out all of those Wall Street suits. It's a great idea. How does it work in practicality? I don't know. It's untested. It hasn't stood the test of time yet. It's brand new. And so far, we see a lot of hacks. We see a lot of loopholes and smart contracts that break, and people throwing a lot of money in the weirdest places. And, it's really interesting. It's really fascinating. And I think that, new economic models are being tested. And if we see one or two of them emerge that are sound models for the long term, this whole game is going to be a huge success. But it is a big if in my mind. It's a big if.
I think that those interest rates can only be given when you have people that are so excited that are willing to pay exorbitant amounts to borrow. And so that's the only way that I think can be held up. And then obviously once things fine tune, those rates have got to come down. I can't see how that can't be in perpetuity or going forward as things start to stabilize. But it's an interesting part of the coin.
Dino, maybe that's the real market rate, and the rest of the traditional finance is just being suppressed by the central banks, and maybe the real rate should be 20%. Who knows? It's a free market. But
that's possible. But
it's not happening. But it's a possibility. But what I'm just trying to get my point across is this is a small microcosm of the rest of the financial economy.
Okay. So let's talk about the for next year. Everybody that subscribes to the stock to flow, they're looking at Bitcoin to hit close to the all-time high in December, and then be able to continue on for the next year with expansion of price, higher price discovery to numbers that are spectacular, of course. What's your thought on it? Do you subscribe to that stock to flow, that 4-year model? Do you think it's going to be extending further? Because if you look at it, it seems to be taking longer and longer to hit that high. What's your thoughts on all that?
So in April of 2018, I was on with Matt Miller of Bloomberg, and I told him that The last bull run of 2017, that was driven by retail, and the next one's going to be driven by Wall Street and corporate entities. And it's taken a while, but Libra happened, right? And then now we see, Twitter and MicroStrategies investments, and not only them making these very large bets on Bitcoin, and using it actually for the reason that it was intended, as an alternate to fiat, right? An alternative that you don't have to hold your money in government and central bank controlled money. But not only that they're doing that, they're also paving the way for others to do it. And no doubt, if we start to see, all corporations and, this negative interest rates is very difficult for corporations who are not into investing, right? Corporations that, have a large stockpile of cash, right?
Yeah.
It's a very uncomfortable situation for them to be in right now, because you start to fear about the stability of your entire company, not because you're doing anything right or wrong necessarily, but because the system is going berserk. And with negative yielding bonds, we can see that people, just to preserve their wealth, are willing to take what's pretty much a guaranteed loss on their investment just to lock it away and keep it for the future. And that's a large trend. I mean, there's 15-16 trillion dollars worth of negative yielding bonds in the world right now. I'm not even talking about negative real yields, but actually negative yields. And then when you try to subtract inflation from that, I mean, you're getting really negative. And that's happening. So there is this question of, how do we preserve capital? And the more people find that the answer to that is Bitcoin, the more we see that reality coming to pass, where we see companies getting that same type of FOMO that, you and I did in 2017. With that, I mean, you asking specifically, yeah, I mean, I think that, 50K, 100K on Bitcoin, I mean, they're certainly possible. And, I've always never been one to really give kind of these price predictions, but let's say if it gets to 50K, I'll be pulling back some exposure. If it gets to 100K, that's it. I'm out. I'm done. Right. And then we could crash that 80% back to 20K, put a nice floor at 20K, which is that previous all-time high. Bitcoin loves to do that. Just fall back 80% and find the support.
What about that 4-year window? Do you still subscribe that it's still gonna correlate to the same 4-year window as last time, or you think it's gonna take a little bit longer? In other words, are you anticipating 21 to be the year of excitement, or 22?
It's all the same. No,
Don't matter to you? Same thing.
I'm trying to think 10 years from now, with my investments, not, tomorrow or next week. It's really, when you invest, you have to realize that investments take time to mature. So, I mean, if it gets that high, I mean, and it is a big if. I mean, to see 10x on an asset is not like, it's not a granted. I mean, that's like, that doesn't happen all the time. Sure. There's a bit of luck that's involved, and certainly skill and an understanding of the markets, but it could just as easily go the other way. There's always these type of risks, and crypto is, I would say, a lot more risky than many other asset classes because it's emerging. So there are certainly risks involved, but honestly, if it gets there, I'll be happy. I don't care when.
So you were talking before, about the institutions, corporations getting involved. And I noticed that we're seeing lots of more banks. Not that they weren't purchasing before, they weren't admitting it. But now, they're starting to come out and saying, yeah, we're gathering. What are the odds? They try to scoop up as much as they can so that they have this asset, sort of like like old, and we used to carry around the metal. It got too heavy, so they said put it in the bank, and we'll give you a piece of paper, and
Yeah.
so you could carry around the piece of paper. So what's to keep the banks? Or what do you think the odds are? The banks are going to try to scoop this all up and then issue piece of paper against it, so we'll have fractional Bitcoin with fake paper Bitcoin going around, and then we're right back to the beginning again.
So the way that I see the future playing out at this very moment in time, and of course, as Master Yoda says, the future, difficult to see the future is constantly in motion. So what I'm looking at right now on the ground is the hottest new trend that, not within our small crypto industry, but within the world of finance at large, are stablecoins and central bank stablecoins, or CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. And it's not only been on the minds of central bankers, it's been on their lips, it's been on, they're enacting it. I mean, now we see the Bahamas with Project Sand Dollar, they're rolling out a national central bank digital currency. So this is a huge step forward. And so is China already. I believe they've seen already 1 billion yuan worth of volume on their own blockchain already. So they're moving forward. In Europe, I mean, also, they're going to take a bit more time. The United States is taking a very different approach to CBDCs. Actually, they're not necessarily going to issue any kind of CBDC anytime soon, but rather they're going to let the private institutions take care of it for them. So what they've done is they've cleared the way for banks to issue stable coins. And now this is directly to your question. I don't think that they'll be issuing fractional reserve on Bitcoin anytime soon, but they will be issuing fractional reserve on the US dollar, for example, right? And that doesn't really have much to do with crypto or Bitcoin or anything like that. But Bitcoin obviously maintains its allure as something that is separate from the traditional finance system, and of course, the pseudo anonymity and the digital scarcity and all of those properties that we know and love. But digital dollars, as issued by a bank, also have very many advantages, and it has the potential to completely disrupt the banking system as we know it, because all of a sudden people don't need a bank account to hold on to their money. They can custody themselves, or they can use an app instead of actual opening up a bank account or anything like that. Of course, that gives direct access to financial services to the unbanked, for example. It gives excellent tools as far as dictating monetary policy, as far as, right now, the way that monetary policy works is you've got a guy in a suit who makes all the decisions. Are we going to raise interest rates or lower interest rates? An algorithm can make that fucking decision much easier, much better, and especially with having oversight on where all of the dollars are and how they're moving. And it doesn't have any kind of, it's not susceptible to temptation or corruption or political pressure. I mean, all of which, we've seen the cycle of quantitative easing, which is all about political pressure. Nobody wants to be the guy who caused the market to crash, so they just keep feeding money into the system like it's free, and then they're not going to the next central bank
guy will be it, right?
the next guy will be there when it falls, and I'll be out of there by then. That's been the hope of it with Ben Bernanke, Janet Yellen, Jerome Powell, intern. They've all been like, and Jerome Powell's just like let me hold the system up long enough to serve out my term, get the fuck out of office, and then let the whole thing crash and burn. As long as the market doesn't fall on my watch, we're good. But an algorithm, on the other hand, doesn't care. He doesn't have presidents tweeting at him. It's an algorithm. He can make those decisions with clarity of understanding the situation. So there's many other benefits. One of the analysts on my team wrote an excellent report, which I highly recommend, on central bank digital currencies, all the advantages. And of course, there's setbacks too, and there's risks involved. But no spoilers. You can certainly read that. So yeah, I mean, I've never been a huge believer in the possibility of hyper Bitcoinization, and I think that there are many problems with that kind of thinking. I believe that Bitcoin's role within the global economy will increase over time, but I don't think that it will ever have the liquidity required to support the entirety of all global trade. It doesn't fathom in my mind. I mean, not in its current form, not anywhere close to what it is now. I mean, in 2017, the network was clogged with like 5 transactions per second. Right. Now we've got SegWit, right, which has certainly helped the capacity of the network, but I'm pretty sure that it can't go beyond 10 or 15 transactions per second. And meanwhile, Visa and MasterCard, or what are they doing? Like 20,000, right? Yeah. Easy. But, that's first confirmation. That's just to check if, there's no block on this, final confirmation on a MasterCard transaction doesn't come for at least 6 months. So
direct transactions are obviously, there's going to obviously have to be some kind of an additional side chain like Lightning or what have you to be able to compensate for that. There's just no other way. Because as well as I do, movement and Bitcoin's going to be slow.
Something else entirely. I mean, Bitcoin as a store of value and as a method of transferring wealth and storing wealth can continue to grow at current pace for quite a while, or even accelerate that pace. But it can't get to even with the Lightning Network is a joke. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Ethereum carries more Bitcoin than the Lightning Network. And I don't think that there's any kind of movement to adopt the Lightning Network. It was, from my view, it was a failed experiment from the get-go. There are other ways to get around it, but there are on-chain scalabilities that are more exciting to me. And I think that as there is a demand for it, and if we see Bitcoin shoot up to 50, 100,000, and then we see another, the network get clogged again, which this is the nature of this type of things, then there will be greater pressure to increase on-chain scaling. And I think that it's already in the works. I mean, there are people who've been theorizing it or whatever. I don't think that the path to 20,000 transactions per second is quite clear yet, but it will be over time as needed.
All right. Well, this kind of brings me to Electroneum. And obviously, you've taken a look at it, and I would assume that you wouldn't get involved with a project if you didn't believe what they were doing had value or merit. You don't seem that type of fellow. So I've always been impressed with Electroneum and what they've done within the last year specifically. But, having that hybrid model where you can be on the blockchain and regular, or you can go into the KYC environment, put the coins in the centralized system where you can then have it on your phone, have instant payments with APIs, the proof of responsibility allowing for the network to run with a small amount of approved nodes. And basically, use the electricity of one house and I see a lot of benefit going on there. And the big key that I've always been excited about was that they having a complete life cycle where you can earn some of that electronium, be able to store it and keep it, and then be able to have an off ramp where you can actually spend it, because there's no sense having a cryptocurrency if you have no place to put it. Otherwise,
Right.
You're right back spending 20,000 bitcoins for 2 pizzas. So, you got to have a way to use the stuff, or it has no value. So, I've always been pretty excited with it. What brought you into Electroneum? What turns you on? What makes you excited about it?
So I met Richard Ells in Malta last time I was there. It's the last flight I took before COVID. The head of PR and I have quite the relationship. I mean, he was a former employee of Blocks Live, where I did interviews a lot, 2017, 2018. So it was good seeing him in Malta, and he's like, you got to meet this guy, and he introduced me to Richard, and I was skeptical. They handed me a phone, an Electroneum branded phone. I never heard of Electroneum before. And I'm like, right. Yeah, that's the one. I'm like, this is going to make for an excellent present for my kids, because there is no way I'm putting any sensitive information on this. I don't know you. Right. So that was kind of my first feeling. After that, I mean, I guess we kind of stayed in touch over the over the internet, especially with Oliver, and another partner of mine, the CEO of Cointelligence, Anya, and I have a complete crypto trading masterclass on Cointelligence. Was actually the first partnership that I did after leaving eToro. Because first of all, teaching crypto trading is obviously something that I've done very many times, and a project that I felt was a good starter. But more than that, I wanted to partner with On right from the get-go because of his reputation as a scam fighter. And he likes to get up on stage and call out,
I've seen him with Richard Hart.
Yeah, that was a fun one. I told him not to do it. I said, God, buddy. And he told me he was going to, he said, he was all excited, I'm going to get Richard Hart and I'm going to ambush him. I'm like, be careful, bro. Richard is smart. He's not a dum-dum, and he knows how to handle these things. He's not gonna hang up and walk away. He's gonna sit there and smile at you the whole way through. And that's exactly what happened. And the rest is history. That's also the reason that I never agreed to going with Richard Hart. I mean, the Hex bots are telling me every single time I mention Hex, get on with Richard Hart and debate him. Why the fuck should I do that? Like, why? Because no matter what I say or how I say it, he's going to claim that he won, right? He's going to say, yeah, I debated Mati Greenspan and won. By your own rules, yes, of course you will have won in your own head. But that's, kind of the, it's kind of the way that things work on social media. You can rag on a guy's wardrobe, and that's counted as scoring points. Like, that's not the kind of debate that I really want to get into or have at. But back to our
Electroneum.
Yeah. So On went actually, I mean, he's in the UK, so he actually went into the Electroneum office and started going into their, they actually at one point said, okay, here's the computer of one of our senior officers. Go for it. And, the immediate feeling that you get from Electroneum that I had was that there are bots involved here. There's got to be bots at play. So I didn't believe the amount of engagement on social media that I was seeing. That was, to me, was like unbelievable. And then one after another going, yeah, this is the best network. This is the best crypto project. And I was like, there's got to be bots. They can't be real people. And I started looking at them one by one. And then, on comes out and he does this whole report. He was in their back end, no bots. There's actual transactions happening on the network, actual users, actual growth in the real world. So that's exciting. And, the way that they were able to, this is not just, it's not just building up a community of evangelists, but actually, creating something of value that's useful for people to the point where they become the evangelists. And I think that was very clear from the get-go that this isn't people that are just, kind of talking their own book, but rather people that are in some way have invested their time and energy into the network. The fact that they're kind of building up a program for financial inclusion, a new marketplace, a free marketplace in places that sorely need it. And to me, that really goes right to the heart of the vision of crypto from the get-go, right? Of what cryptocurrency is all about. And for that, it's something that I want to be involved in whatever capacity I can, as an advisor or just contributing or whatever I can do to help. That's really what I want to do, is to help these type of projects. And these are the type of projects that I want to associate with, is the ones that are doing some good.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing, is that, I've been doing a show for years on Electroneum. I kind of just specialize in it, and I do other projects, but I try to explain to folks what Electroneum's all about, and it's hard to believe that so many people really don't know what it does or what it's all about, or the background of it, and how the complete functionality of the product and where they've taken it. And once you really get to know what's going on, where somebody can go into any task, set up a gig, be able to offer it and sell it, and because the big problem is if these folks around the world try to go to Fiverr and they sign up and it says, okay, put your bank account here, well, they can't get paid, and that's the whole problem. I'm in Southeast Asia, and I can't afford a bank account. It's $10 a month, which I don't have. I only make 30 or 40. You guys want to take 40% of my, or 25% of my monthly income? That ain't gonna happen. Yeah. And so now you have an opportunity where they can, keep their value right there, in their cell phones, and be able to produce a product or produce a service, and be able to receive a payment of value. And in Uganda, there's a lot of guys out in Uganda, and they do that, and they go down the street, they get a haircut, bloop, bloop, guy cuts his hair, and they buy some electronics, and being able to then be to pay for your cell phone service, top it up, or data plan, or be able to use it for other local. It's actually useful. It actually functions, and you got the ETN everywhere, where there's many businesses around the world that are punching it in and putting their information in there. My company's the new version that I'm releasing on our websites is going to have the ETN payment, instant payment, so people can pay for it with Electroneum directly, and I'm going to take the coins directly. I'm not cashing them in or converting them. And
Right.
and it's really exciting to see it actually being used, and there's actual numbers behind it. The people are using it and doing it. Even Scott Sornetta, when he took a look at it, which I'm sure you know, the father of blockchain, the Dr. Scott, and he was very impressed and was happy to see that it's Bitcoin that actually is being used on a daily basis, and it's only going to get bigger and bigger, as you know as well as I do. That they're going to have a lot more advertising, TV commercials, and they're going to get more and more folks involved, so that it can bring some value to people. It's pretty exciting, and once you explain it and you tell people, they're like, I think I want to be part of this. This is pretty cool. It's neat stuff, and definitely want to have this in your pocket. The one thing that I've always been curious about, obviously you have the token economics with Electroneum, and a lot of folks are like, well, if it does all this great stuff, why is it still at a half a penny? I don't understand. And I'm like, well, it's basically you gotta get the word out so that people understand it, and obviously you have to have a demand for the price to go up. And the question always comes up in your mind, and this may or may not be directly related to Electroneum. Is it better to have 21 billion coins or 21 million? And before you answer, obviously 21 million, you're going to have a higher price on the coin than you are on a billion coins, so 21 billion. Electroneum, instead of doing the 8 decimal point, they kept it to 2 decimal points so that it looked familiar, so that it looked like money. 8 decimal points, a lot of people can't grasp that concept. So with the 2 decimal points, so that's the reason why they went this direction. But it does leave you with the surge of coins that obviously each one is worth less. What is always your thought regarding, for some of the projects? Is there an advantage to having 21 million versus 21 billion? And what do you think the advantages and disadvantages are of having that type of volume of coin availability?
Well, I'll answer it for you, Dino, but first I want to attack your premise.
Please do.
There's a huge difference between price and utility.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not always aligned the way that people think they should be. Bitcoin's price tends to go up, as you mentioned, due to a scarcity and due to a lack of liquidity. I see a lot of people lately, and I was just tweeting about it earlier today or yesterday, that think that because Ethereum is going to do some upgrades and lower their transaction costs, that the price is going to go through the moon, right? And I say, and I see it all the time, and to me, it just doesn't make any sense. That's not how it works, right? Mm-hmm. The price, if you lower the cost of transaction of each transaction, you're actually going to reduce the demand on the token, not increase it. If you're reducing the demand, the price is going down. This is how I see it, and this is, obviously we'll see how it plays out. The more, people start to implement roll-ups on their Ethereum transactions and all that, and then Ethereum 2.0, which is supposed to bring transaction costs way down.
Right.
The fees that you pay represents the value that gets stuck in the network. The problem with the token economics of XRP, and the same thing that I was telling so many clients in eToro around 2017 and 18, is that the network doesn't retain any value, right? You've got a total supply of 99 billion, half of which is locked up. That was a good move on their part in an escrow account. You still have, 50 billion tokens running around. But that's not the problem. The problem is that the way it works is like a lead pipe. Okay. So I don't know if you've ever heard this analogy of the lead pipe. So let's say you've got a guy on one end who wants to send a bar of gold to a guy on the other end through a lead pipe.
Okay.
Now, for the time that the transaction is taking place, the lead pipe is worth that bar of gold. That's the value that it has. That bar of gold is in that lead pipe. As soon as the guy comes at the other end and takes the gold out of the lead pipe, he's extracting the value at the end. So the same amount of value that was put into the XRP transaction is taken out, is extracted as soon as the transaction is completed. So the only value that the network retains is the transaction fees, which unfortunately for XRP are extremely low. So the network doesn't actually retain any value. The only argument that you could make that the value of the coin should go up long term is when you say, okay, it's going to be so useful that banks are going to want to hold large reserves because they're making those transactions because they don't want to, they fear that the price will go up later on down the line, so they'll start accumulating and stockpiling. We haven't seen that happen as of yet. With Electroneum, I mean, there is no lead pipe analogy. I mean, all of the value, it originates within the network and it remains within the network. There isn't a mass extraction happening, right? There is no extraction happening. As you mentioned, the guy receives his payment in Electroneum for doing a job. And then he goes to the barber and he pays the barber with the Electroneum. The barber then takes the Electroneum and he keeps it as Electroneum and passes the value forward as ETN, right?
Okay.
So the question that you're asking me regarding the total number and the hard cap, I think that really is a monetary policy decision of what you think the maximum potential of the network is, right? And like we mentioned, Bitcoin will probably never be able to support the entirety of global trade, right? It's just not liquid enough. 21 million coins,
Not today.
it ain't enough.
Yeah.
Even if you split them into Satoshis, you're still not going to have enough units to pass around, right?
Okay.
So having a larger amount can be helpful in that you don't run into liquidity problems. Now, there's also something incredibly commendable about having a stable price. And this is why I say you have got to separate price from utility. Actually, I don't care if the price of Electroneum goes up. It's not why I joined it, and it's certainly not what I care about as far as the growth of the network. What I care about is the financial inclusion aspect, the aspect of does this help people? Does it create value for people? And that's really why I wanted to get involved. So
sure.
Really, I mean, I've got my investments in Bitcoin, right, and other investments, obviously. So the Electroneum, I mean, certainly I'm holding, but it's not because I feel like the price is going to 10x. It's not about that. It's about utility, and I think that as long as Electroneum can continue to do what they're doing and continue to grow at the rate that they're growing, eventually that will cause increase in price as you get an increase in demand on the tokens. Question is, when does that, at what point does that kind of start leveling off? And having a larger amount gives them a longer runway before they have to make any kind of major monetary policy decisions, right? I have no doubt that within 10 years from now or 20 years from now, the Bitcoin leaders or leaders of the Bitcoin community, be they the same people they are today or not, are going to be having a conversation, a very serious conversation about raising the 21 million cap. They have to. At some point, it gets so illiquid and people have such a propensity not to spend it that it becomes kind of useless, right? And if you want the network to continue to have value, you're going to need to produce more units, right? You're going to need to make it more liquid. And the easiest way to do that is to increase the cap. And this is the problem with Bitcoin inherently, is that it doesn't have a flexible monetary policy, right? Central bankers, they have flexible monetary policy, perhaps a bit too flexible, right?
Very stretchy.
So you got a little elastic made out of rubber. So you have to have a balance in any case. I believe that, and certainly seeing what the central bankers have done, I can understand why Satoshi would want to make it so rigid. Bitcoin, I wouldn't say that it's impossible. The monetary policy is not impossible to change, but it's incredibly difficult, right? You need consensus of everybody, not just the miners, as we learned in 2017. It's not about the miners, but everybody has a say. The end user to the programmers, to the wallet providers, to the nodes, everybody has a say. And you need to get a broad consensus of everybody if you want to ever make any changes to Bitcoin's monetary policy.
Sure.
So,
And, instead of, and they may not go more than 21, maybe they'll put 12 decimals, and that gives you more, because you're not going to be buying Bitcoin at that point. The average Joe, if it's $1 million a coin or $500,000 a coin, you're just not going to be buying it. I can't afford that.
And the free market can do that without broad consensus also, by the way. They can add more spaces after the decimal, because one guy will say, okay, I'm going to give you 1/100th of a Satoshi, right? And then, okay, it's not verifiable on the blockchain, but I can keep track of it. It's the same way that forex brokers are able to offer 4 digits after the four digits after the decimal, right? Because it's an internal system. So yes, the free market will be able to do that at some point in the future. They can probably can do it already. In Electroneum's case, I think that there's a much longer runway before that even becomes a question, right? In the case of Stellar Lumens, they had to go the opposite way and say, okay, we're burning half the supply. They just said it's too much. We're burning.
What do they start off with?
What? I don't remember. It was a fork of XRP, so I'm going to guess that it was 99 billion. And then,
yeah. All right. So it was way out.
I don't remember what the numbers were, but I remember the announcement, maybe a year ago, that they were just burning half the supply. And I'm like, well, good for you, because there was just too many. So
the 21 billion, I think Electroneum is gonna need it, and they're gonna be able to use it because, like you say, a lot of those coins are gonna be in the machine. You're gonna have that velocity of Electroneum moving around internally, and then you're gonna have more to be able to keep the things running. So I like the 21 billion supply. And just over time, it'll be what it needs to be as we go forward. Your thoughts? Where do you think Electroneum will be? Going forward, and what kind of recommendations would you have for the team?
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to our advisory calls. According to our agreement, I get to talk to them once a month at the minimum. I thought the first one was incredibly productive already, and we did speak about decimals and monetary policy, of course. And I think that the arguments I've made for them and on their behalf were accepted. quite gladly, and I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out of that, if anything, is implemented.
So you had some suggestions for them, and we'll see what they do with that. Good, good. Well, it's good to see they're getting.
That's
some
my job as an
feedback.
advisor. I can,
Yeah.
I don't make the decisions, and that's perhaps a very pleasurable place to be in, because I don't get nailed if they take the wrong decision. Certainly,
Well, I think it's wise on their part that they're taking the time to put folks like you on the team that have this vast wealth of knowledge and experience with other projects and financial working with financial assets, and to be able to give them some proper feedback and guidance of, hey, on the most case this usually works, and in this case this usually works, and to have that, I think, is fantastic. Richard's a great guy. He's got a lot of good ideas, and everybody that's on the team is pretty excited. But not everybody is a jack of all trades. Can be have all the knowledge necessary. Do you foresee some pretty exciting stuff happening for Electroneum? I know that they're working on having a new off-ramp capability. There's a new video game, blockchain game that's going to be incorporating the product, and there's a lot of other good stuff that's in the pipe that they're going to be coming out with. It's what's your thoughts just in general on Electroneum? You think they have a pretty good chance, obviously, to make something of value that's going to be useful to everybody? I would assume.
What attracted me to them from the beginning, Dino, was their ability to not only just to grow the network, but to promote financial inclusion.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that as long as they stick to that goal, right, of promoting financial inclusion and allowing people who wouldn't have access to, COVID-19 has displaced so many people. Like, it completely disrupted entire industries, some of which maybe permanently, right? I mean, we don't have to start naming them, but industries have basically gone bankrupt. And the difference, I mean, you and I are able to earn our living with nothing more than an internet connection and a piece of hardware, right? And many people across the first world are able to do that. And working from home, that was the first new trend that everybody was talking about, that COVID-19 was going to inflict on the world, was this working from home, and no people aren't going to the office anymore. I mean, personally, I've been working from home since November. When I left eToro, I was working from home, so I was a bit ahead of the curve on that one. But the more people that we can get who are able to, with nothing more than an internet connection, feed their family, I think the better off the world becomes, right? The more people we get working in ways that are creative and productive, and basically joining the internet. The world is, what are we at? 7.5 billion people,
yeah,
right?
Yep.
And I think that there's a serious disparity between those who can, work from home and those who can't. And those who can, let's say COVID-19 is over, they can get a job with nothing more than a laptop, right? Is going to be far ahead of somebody who's, got to go out and dig a ditch. So the more people they're able to serve, and the better they're able to serve them, that's where I see the value of Electroneum. That's where it is. It's about promoting that financial inclusion for those who would otherwise have absolutely no access to all of the bountiful fruits that the internet has created for us.
Anything exciting or additional that you wanted to mention, or did I I hit everything on my list that I wanted to ask you, but I didn't know if you had
Good.
anything on the top of your head that you wanted to the spout out or to mention.
Yeah, man. I mean, like I said, we do a lot of great content, and if you want to know what's on my head, I mean, I'm writing every day. So feel free to subscribe. I mean, it's quantumeconomics.io, and if you really want to know what I'm thinking, you will have more than plenty of it.
Perfect. Make sure you visit Mati on Twitter also. Subscribe to him there. You'll see plenty of tweets. I count them throughout the day. And then, of course, the Quantum Economics IO website and newsletter. Get a hold of all that. It's all good stuff. Mati, you've been a gentleman. I am very thrilled that you spent a few minutes with me and afforded me some time. We really do appreciate you. And hopefully I'll be able to come up with some more good ideas and questions to hit you up with and to get your thoughts when we go into the future. So
Yeah.
I appreciate you. And
No, I appreciate you, man. Thanks a lot for having me. It's a pleasure.